This community, along with the larger Asian community, is touted as being model minority. We don't do anything wrong. We never get into trouble. Grades are high. We are the champs in spelling bees. It feels great to be showcased as that and being a part of model community. The notion of model community also trivializes and hides the struggles, issues, and stressors that this community faces on an ongoing basis. Many in the community believe in this myth. They believe that this community does not have issues with mental illness or substance abuse. We know that the reality is otherwise. Stigma, although common in all communities across the United States, NAMI, United States, New Jersey has been fighting stigma for many years, and many other organizations are doing that. But stigma in our community is extreme, and it has its own nuances that are very significant barriers to seeking care. We feel embarrassed when holes are poked in this myth of model minority. Recently, I received a call from a senior psychologist practicing in northwestern New Jersey. She told me that just recently, 4 or 5 Indian families were referred to her because of problems related to alcohol. And she described her frustration and desperation of the extent of the problem. 3 of these 5 families were referred by DIFUS, which is the organization that gets involved when the children are neglected or abused. She told me about the extent of devastation she sees in the South Asian families due to alcohol-related problems. Some of these include engaging in criminal activities. But when you ask the people, they say, well, nothing is wrong with taking a few drinks. What's a few drinks? It's sometimes even fashionable to drink. During the 1980s, or maybe even later, it doesn't happen so much now. I remember when I used to travel to India, I would go and meet friends or some of the relatives, my uncle's house, and they would have a bottle of scotch, have a drink. I said, I don't drink. What? You come from USA and you don't drink? At least I don't drink scotch, you know. And they were like shocked. How can you not drink? Amongst the young, wealthy, it's a matter of pride and fashion. So, who can drink more? People don't recognize that there are some who cannot stop after 1 or 2 drinks. There are some who can drink socially and then stop after a drink, enjoying a drink, a beer or 2, but some cannot. Families are falling apart because of alcohol. In many senses, this alcoholism is a family disease. You know, people may discriminate all over the world. We talk about racism, this, that. Alcohol does not discriminate. It can affect any race. It affects the rich, the poor, the educated, the uneducated. You can have engineers like IT, physicians, psychiatrists, nurses, social workers, doesn't matter what walks of life, businessmen, successful businessmen, and so on. The problem is increasing in our community, and we need to face it. And this is our first small step. But as you can see, and as you will see today, an alcoholic is just, they don't have any special face. It could be any one of us. You cannot read the face and say, oh, he's alcoholic, just like mental illness. You cannot tell by looking at somebody that he's mentally ill or she's mentally ill. A recent study reported in an Oxford journal suggested that South Asian men They compared South Asians and European men, and the European men had a longer history of drinking, and they compared how they metabolize alcohol. And what they found was the South Asians who had been drinking for a shorter period of time had a greater liver damage. So there are organic ways in which how alcohol affects our bodies, which is different from non-South Asians. People fail to recognize the dangers they are putting their families, their children, when they get behind the wheel after just a few drinks. We read about horror stories in the newspaper. Families, entire families, and sometimes communities suffer when one person has a problem with drinking. And you will hear more details about that throughout this evening. We are trying to get people to even come for events like that, because just coming for the event is like admitting, I don't have a problem. I don't need to come. But you need to learn to recognize, because somebody around you might have one day.